about to fall asleep, her head in the crook of his arm. Jed asked, "What about it, Maggie? You staying here, or are you going back to New York?" She froze. "Yes, there's this bond between us. Yes, yes," she yearned to say. But she'd struggled to build a self, a life, and it seemed he was asking her to give it up. In her marriage, 9 years ago, she had not yet had a life when she had given it up. And that had ended in her husband's suicide. She'd had a series of dreams since meeting Jed. She thought of them as the robber dreams. Someone, male, broke into her apartment. Adolescent boys, usually. They'd break down the front door and rush in gleefully, or burst in through the windows. They'd climb the building and hoist themselves through French doors facing the street. The night after she and Jed quarreled and made up, those doors were wide open. Jed turned to her. "I'm asking you, Maggie, stay here with me." "I would love to. I've fallen in love with you, but..." She would have to give up dancing with her company, Moving Earth. The company would be returning from Europe in 2 weeks to resume fall rehearsals. She loved K2K, the director. From the time she took Moving Earth's summer workshop in Vermont, her life began to quicken, as if she had been an animal caved in hibernation, and at last had come the end of winter. She'd moved to New York to join the company. It had inspired her to take every kind of bodywork class she could and work whatever job to afford them and to dance. Moving Earth had given her substance. Maggie wasn't interested in dancing with any other company. She doubted if other companies would be interested in her. She told him, "I'd have to quit dancing." "I can't ask you to do that. It'd be like you asking me to give up flying." Jed looked away. There must be dance companies in San Francisco. "In November, we're scheduled for Vancouver. In December, we're dancing at La Mama Theater." "There's someone else." "No." He waited. "It's New York." "It's not the glamour," she said, "it's the street life. You can't find its equivalent anywhere in the USA. People walk. Life is vivid and all around you, not behind glass and hubcaps. Every size, shape, race, nationality, and attitude rubbing up against every other. In the spring, my God, you should see Washington Square and Central Park. Magicians, tightrope walkers, tortoise racers, mimes, all manner of musicians, everyone moving, skateboarding, jogging, cycling, riding in horse-driven carts. And the streets themselves. Where I live, there are still cobblestones, Jed. I wake up to mounted policemen clip-clopping along. I don't know how to tell you what all that means to me." It had taken her a long time to get used to Manhattan, coming from the mountains of Vermont to live in a no-man's land downtown, above Wall Street and below Canal, amongst enormous, austere buildings intended for commerce. You had to walk a mile to fetch groceries from the village or Chinatown and haul them home by cart. Now Soho, the adjacent neighborhood, which had been the avant-garde stepsister of the 57th Street art establishment in the early 70s, was flourishing and hot, and that heat was catching on downtown. Artists who'd lived in commercially zoned spaces behind black shades were emerging into the legit light of day through artist-in-residence designations. Lawyers were buying lofts. A 24-hour food emporium was going up. Fancy restaurants. Even Magoo's, the funky neighborhood hangout whose owner bartered for art, let you keep a tab, and bought you a drink and a burger when you paid it, had upscaled. New pool table, paint. "People are beginning to name it Tribeca," she said, short for Triangle Below Canal. "Cab drivers are finding their way. Shoe repair and laundromat won't be far behind. I pioneered that territory, broke the sod, and now I want to reap the rewards." "This area has a name," Jed said. "The pastures of heaven." "I know. I read your Steinbeck. It is heaven," she said. "But in this heaven, you have to get in a car."